know it's pretty late, so I know a lot of people probably most likely not going to tune into this. So I'm gonna just start off with shalom, peace, blessings to all those who watching. Um, I have to really get this off my chest right now. I have to say what needs to be said while there's still time left. Okay. All right. For those who really don't know, my channel is a lot of things. It's pro Bible, pro LGBT, pro Israelite, okay, pro polygyny, okay. It's also pro 2A, pro Second Amendment, all right, pro gun, pro firearm, all right. You could just say weapons, pro self defense. And the reason why that is, and the reason why I titled the video and I titled the live, excuse me, anti gun equals anti LGBTQ. Anti 2A, which 2A means Second Amendment, means anti Christ. And the reason why I say that is because, and let me start off with precept. Psalms 1, 4, and 4. Y'all can see that. Okay. Also, Yeshua, who the world falsely calls Jesus Christ, said in Luke 22, Luke 22, 36 to 38, then said he unto them, but now he that have a purse, let him take it, and likewise his scrip. And he that have no sword, let him sell his garment and buy one. For I say unto you that this that is written must yet be accomplished in me. And he was reckoned among the transgressors, for the things concerning me have an end. And they said, Lord, behold, verse 38, and they said, Lord, behold, here are two swords. And he said unto them, it is enough. It is sufficient. So we see throughout the scriptures that Yeshua wanted his disciples to be armed because of what was about to happen. Okay. I don't, being armed and being protecting yourself is not only a Second Amendment right, it is a God-given right. You have people who are LGBTQ, and not all, because you have ones who believe in the Second Amendment, who believe in having whatever the bad guy has, I want to have, because when the police are minutes away, seconds matter, okay? And there are stories that happen here, happen even in, I think it was the Netherlands, which is very pro-LGBT. And there was a recent story happened maybe about a couple days ago, where it was a guy who was being called homo by these guys, and he confronted them, and they decided to beat up on him. And if it wasn't for the people that was around to see that taking place, he probably would have been beat to death, because the guys that was beating on him, took off running. The homophobes took off running. And then the people called the police, and the police got there. See, this is what I'm saying when people say, well, I don't live in conservative states. I live in Colorado. I live in this place. I live in Hawaii. Or it's not about, guns. It's about those weapons of war, those assault rifles and AKs and ARs and everything, right? You don't need all of that. If you're not having watching recently, there are home invasions that have taken place where there's 3, 4 plus people coming in, and at regular people who don't cause any trouble, people just mind their business, because this is the world we're living in, and it's nobody's responsibility to protect you but you. All right. So and even things that are in the law, like the Second Amendment, and especially like council doctrine, are in the Bible, in the scriptures, right? It's a little different, because if somebody broke into your house at nighttime, you could, kill them, and the blood was free from your hands. Okay. In the daytime, you catch them stealing, and they break in your house, and you catch them stealing, you have to pay back whatever they stole from you. All right. But even the council doctrine is biblical. All right. So I prove everything. I show and prove everything I'm saying I'm doing is based off biblical scriptures and common sense. All right. So when people say that we need to take the guns off the street because of X, Y, I mean, look at the UK. Stabbings happen all the time in the UK. That's the big thing. The way that people view guns and how we need to get rid of guns and all these dangerous guns and weapons is how people view knives in the UK, right? So they have this thing like in America, ghost guns, right? The serialized guns that can be made and printed without any serial number, they would label them ghost guns. In the UK, knives that can be made and I guess into machetes, whatever, they call them zombie knives, right? So they have very strict knife laws because you know why? The issue is not the gun, it is not the knife, it is the people. The Most High had to get rid of people because it was too much wickedness, it was too much murder, it was too much of that going on the earth. So they had to flood it, and now it comes with fire. All right, this is the last and second judgment with fire because of the wickedness of men. What's in men's hearts? No matter what the weapon is, and of course, like it's not good for certain people to get a hold of firearms that shouldn't have them. I understand that, but and there has to be laws to combat that. But laws that don't keep the everyday average citizen, the moral, prudent person, sober-minded individual from gaining access to firearms as well. So don't disarm yourself by trying to disarm the bad guy, because the bad guys do not uh, abide by laws. Criminals do not obey laws. They're criminals. They break laws. So if you make a law, just like we have laws on the book right now, that's about not having drugs, right? When the last time you seen that stopped anything, right? When the last time have illegal street drug sales went down? More people are probably getting high now than they probably ever was before. Okay, so in the 80s, drugs, 90s, drugs, okay, 80s, crack, 70s, cocaine. Oh, it didn't stop anything. Then we had drug and gang wars. So it didn't stop the sale of drugs. All kind of drugs are available. You can get this, you can get that. So and that's usually sold through the underworld. Because if the legal government is saying, hey, well, we're not going to legalize, we're not going to make it available, people are going to go to the underworld, because the main things that people are always going to look for: a way to eat, a way to sleep, okay, a way to shelter themselves, a way to defend themselves, okay, a way to have sex, okay. Those are things that people just naturally going to find. So I'll find a way. So when you try to take it away from people, then that is going to have more issues, more problems, cause more problems than anything, because you need something to combat that or to replace that. Uh, the firearm is the best weapon that one could have. All right, person to defend yourself in this day and age. All right, no matter what laws or bills are being passed, criminals have always find a way to. Okay, let me pause. Let's look at the comments right now. Okay, King George says, "Hey, Mr. Motion, name a car for it." Okay, Levi, hi, shalom, shalom. So those who tune, but like I said, when people, I can get into statistics for people who say, well, it'll bring down the lot, it will bring down the number of murders. And speaking of that, I had someone said they were trying to say, well, in the UK they have better laws when it comes to guns and stuff. So the UK murder rate is probably real low compared to what it is in Florida. They probably saw them on Facebook, saw them from Florida, right? I was like, this actually has went down, especially in Jacksonville, like the largest city in Florida. Jacksonville has the murder rate has decreased to 40 to 50%. All right, since 2024, they have a new sheriff who's not playing the games. I can't remember his name. I just saw two documentaries of him. It's a black guy, sheriff of Jacksonville. Also, this is after constitutional carry was passed in the state. I believe constitutional carry was passed in July of 2023, if I remember right, if I remember correctly. So, a lot of people are armed. On top of that, you have well-trained armed policemen who know how to deal, and sheriffs who know how to deal with the issue. And the issue is not just taking guns out of the street. It's not just even just locking people up, even though there's people who need to be, who shouldn't be out on the streets, who probably shouldn't even be in prison. They probably be put under prison because they're complete deranged monsters. Okay. And I mean it in every bad way possible. They don't need to be around anyone. So keep them away and let the people who want to live, who know how to live and obey laws, live out here in these streets and live in peace. All right. So don't take away the guns because there's people who are doing bad things with them. All right. Like they say, don't try to take the baby out with the bathwater. So there's people out here who don't need to, who don't need to be out in the streets, and you let them out for murder. Somebody commits a murder, and you give them bond, and then they create 2 or 3 more other murders. They should never have bond in the first place. And then you use those incidents to say, oh, we need stricter gun laws to take guns away from everyday hardworking people who have families who need to protect them because you might not feel like you need the AR-15 or you need this or all that, but go against them. But I'm gonna make a law to get rid of them. No real criminal is gonna give up their guns. No real criminal is gonna give up their drugs if they want to stay in business. Okay, they're not gonna do it. So what make you think they have all these strict laws? You get federal time. There's people who still okay. Anyway, but it's like I have to talk like this because when you see people in these comments, and it's people who actually believe like, you don't need 30 rounds, who actually believe you don't need these weapons, but only the military, police need the weapons. And it's like the police show up late. The military are not your personal bodyguards. The military have to protect whatever their commander, whatever their lieutenant tells them to protect. That's the area they protect. They're not going to be when something pop off. The military is not going to be at every single person's door, making sure the enemy invaders are coming in your. That's not how it works. The military only consists of so many people. There's usually going to be, unless you live in Switzerland, the military is only going to consist of so many people. Most times civilians are going to outnumber those who are active serving military. Okay, or even former, even veteran. The people who haven't served are usually going to outnumber. But this is the reason why the Second Amendment was put in place, because if there is an invasion in this country, if you already are armed, you don't have to get ready. You don't have to be armed. And if the government trains the people who are the militia and when we go at it, well regulated, and I know I might be all over the place, but it's so much to cover, and there's so much that hasn't been covered, that is being covered. Well regulated at the time when the Second Amendment was written was about it meant well function. It means well function. Okay, it doesn't mean what we know today as regulation as far as controlling. Most of the Bill of Rights was not written to tell us what we can't do. It was written to tell the government what they can't do. Because one was coming out of a tyrannical government. It's coming out of British monarchy. All right. So I want to do away with that. They were young people rebelling against the system that was telling them what to do. So it was like we're telling the system, the new system, even our system, that you can't, we're going to tell you you cannot tell these people that they can't have this, they can't speak, they can't do this. So the Bill of Rights Constitution is to tell the government what they cannot do to the citizens. These are the rights, and you can't take away these rights. Or this on this part you can infringe, on this part you can't infringe. And the Second Amendment says shall not be infringed. The right of the people to keep and bear arms, the right of the people, not the militia, because the militia can become or are the people. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not may, shall not be infringed. So that means limited, and off, caged, should not be limited, should not be taken away, none of that. Should not be infringed. It means just that. So I don't want to hear on this thing about no gun reform. I'm not for gun control. We just need gun reform. No. Okay. What we need is people to become better. What we need is more healing. We need more therapy, and what we need is people who don't need to be on these streets off the streets. Okay, okay, that's what we need. And the prison should be a place where it's about rehabilitation, not a place where it treats people less than animals too, because that causes more problems. People when they release, they don't know how to act, and you know, they cause more problems when they release into these neighborhoods. So that's what needs to happen. But no matter where you move to, Colorado, Hawaii, Netherlands, there's always going to be somebody there who is not going to care about the law that's being passed. Brazil, wherever, Thailand, wherever, and they can do harm because they disagree with how you live your life. So whether you black, white, red, short, there's going to be a person somewhere who feels like they have the right to put hands on you because they don't agree with how you look, your preference, your ideology, or whatever the case. All right, your political view, and they feel like they have a right to put hands on you. And I'm telling you, you have a right to protect yourself with the best. So not every situation calls for a firearm. There's some situations calls for, hey, you just to walk away. There's situations that calls for you just to, hey, put out some mace, put out some hands. And in some situations, if a person has a deadly weapon, that's when it's time to meet the deadly weapon with a deadly weapon. So if you have no other choice but to defend yourself in that deadly way, then so be it. And hopefully you never have to. But a lot of people who thought they never had to use a firearm or thought they never needed a firearm was in a situation where they thought they never, they thought they would never be in. Because hey, I live in a better neighborhood. I live in this country. I live in, this part of the country. I live in, and they find trouble there, even there, because there's people who can hide. They said, yo, if I want to attack a bunch of people who I don't, what's the best place to do it? In a place where they're not going to see it coming. I could blend in and act like I'm one of them and, and boom, So, yeah, you have to keep those things in mind. So I feel like to me, if you're anti-Second Amendment and you're talking about, I want laws that's going to protect gay people, trans people, a marginalized group of people, but you're against those same people having what the people who are attacking you have. They don't care about the law. They care about being caught. But the bad guy don't care nothing about no law that says I can't. Okay, well, I'm going to get it anyway. I'll find a way to get it. I get somebody to make it for me. I get somebody on the inside to get it for me, all right? It's just like, if in jail or prison, there's laws about making weapons and having knives and having shanks. They still make them anyway. It doesn't stop people still sneaking stuff in prison. Where, it's so monitored in there, so they can't stop people from making shanks, making weapons, making all kind of weapons. There's even cases of people sneaking guns in their bottom on the inside of prison and using guns in prison, sneaking them in. So what make you think on the outside, some bill, especially in America, where there's more guns than there is people? There's more guns than it is people in this country, and you think that somehow, and I ain't talking about like in the shops. That could be that scattered throughout all that a bill is going to stop people in this country from being armed, like really fully. In Australia, where they had got rid of their guns, like I think like 94, 98, they just recently had like 3 shootouts. They had a woman had a drive-by. It was a woman. She was hit. She was like the wrong person, wrong house. Some young people hit up her house. Before that, there was like another incident where the mob there in Australia had robbed a museum of guns at like $50-something thousand worth of guns. Before that, there was a shootout between some like Christian cult amongst. They had shot some like police officer, whatever. So they've been having shootings like crazy in Australia recently, uptick. So Australia, the UK, South Africa, you have people there making videos about the government allowing them to be armed because the government is not doing their job. Oh, I bet the government is doing their job, and that's controlling, governing the mind, but not protecting your behind, okay? Because that is your duty to protect your booty, okay? So, I don't know really what many examples because like I said, I've been all over the place in this live, and I can go hours and hours on this subject. I can. Hopefully, I don't go no more than 30 minutes, but it's there's so many arguments against, and they have, there's people who can easily clear those out, debunk all those arguments, those weak talking points about, we don't need those guns and weapons of war. I just want to feel safe and da 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 da, and whatever, right? And and like I said, it just boggles my mind. It's just like people are educated on the right when it comes to trans. They don't know that much about intersex. What is that? I don't know, right? So there's people who are miseducated on the left. If you lean towards the left, who are miseducated when it comes to firearms, and they think that they don't really know that much about firearms, but they believe, because you got people who want firearms going because they want to feel safe. I understand that. You got people who want firearms going because they feel like bodies will the death and murders will decrease, right? Even though the same amount of people usually die roughly around the same each year in car deaths and gun deaths, they usually around the same. Sometimes the cars will outdo the guns maybe about a thousand, and the cars are usually by a couple thousand. Anyway, so it's usually kind of net to net, but sometimes it might be a little higher. Guns might be a little higher than automobiles. Automobiles might be a little higher than gun deaths. So each year in this country, gun deaths, cars is, so they usually around like 30, 40 something thousand. But nobody said, let's ban these fast cars. Like I said, there's many other ways that people die, executed, killed all over the world. And so when people say that, who feel that the government is, or the police, whatever, are going to be there to protect you, you don't live in reality. All right. You don't live in areas, or never lived in an area, a place where you just haven't lived in reality, where there's people who don't care nothing about nothing, and they walk amongst you. They don't care. They care about being caught. And then some people don't. They wish they were caught. They do stuff just to be caught because they can't function in society. They'd rather be locked up. So they do everything they can to get locked up because they say, yo, they got free, bed, they got free food. Yeah, yeah. They might not want to do a whole lot of time, but they want to go to jail. So I don't know what to tell you. So when you're thinking that a law sometimes is going to stop people who want to go to jail from possessing and having stuff, you're out your mind. Now I just use Australia, how they still have uptick of gunshots still being fired, because like I said, the criminals not going to give up their weapons. UK stabbings. UK got acid attacks. UK got get ran over by cars. I think in Germany, UK, right? You got the Palestinians, wherever they is, terrorists, whatever, over there running people over. Then we had people getting ran over around New Year's over here in America. They was kicking up dust around here. So I don't know why people feel like, if other things can be used as a weapon. And you have casualties that's people use trucks, like I said, that cause casualties. But nobody look at a truck and say, yo, man, a bunch of people got killed and ran over with that truck. Man, we need to ban Ford. We need to ban whatever. Like nobody, you get what I'm saying? And in Texas, your car is considered a deadly weapon, right? And speaking of Texas, yeah, they were trying to pass a law. And I think a little bit on that. They were trying to pass a law to try to make it a felony for a person who's trans. So if you have like a government, you try to have like a government job or do something with the government, and you tell them, I guess, a gender that's different than what's on paper, if I remember, that you could be looking at a felony, whatever. But it was a bill that I think it was proposed in Austin by a Republican, but I don't think it never went through. But it's the fact that they had the nerve to even try to do that. Whatever. It's crazy. It's insane. It's stupid. Also, you had in Texas law since I think the 80s, 84, you had that it was homosexual conduct was a misdemeanor. So the gays, both Republicans and Democrats, are trying to repeal that law, so it will no longer be a misdemeanor. Okay, uh, and then you have gays in Texas that are discriminated against trans men. So they have like a gay organization there, and they're discriminating against gay trans men. So I guess in Texas, gays have more leeway than trans do, even though I guess gay is still taboo-ish, frowned upon. But they like, hey, we shouldn't make it like a misdemeanor. But when it comes to trans, oh, that should be a felony. Like anyway, it's crazy. So like, so there's people who are ignorant on that, who need to be educated. And I'm gonna tell people like those on the right who are so stuck on the gays and the LGBT and the trans. Get you a trans person because they might save your ass one day. Those on the left who's like, oh, get rid of guns because Republicans and people trying to kill me. Woo, woo, woo. Get you a gun, get you 30 rounds, get you all that stuff, AK, get you all that, because you might need it one day. Because what's stopping somebody from crossing state lines and seeing about you? What's stopping somebody who probably is in that state right now from going to one town to the next and shooting, killing you? What's to stop them? A law that they don't care nothing about. So you might need it, okay? Or you might need if you don't want a gun, because everybody needs to have a gun. But if you don't want a gun, don't make it where even your neighbor or your neighbors, if you have any good neighbors, family members, not being able to possess what the bad guy is able to possess, or the people that you feel like don't need them, but they still have them. However you feel, they still have them, right? So it's not going to happen. People are going to have weapons that you feel like they shouldn't have. They're going to find a way to get access to them, unless you live in a place like North Korea where you can't boo boo the wrong way without the president or the dictator knowing how you're boo booing. So if you want to live in a country like that, which I don't think nobody really does really want to, yeah. And even then, you said of having, I guess, other mass murderers walking around with firearms, you have to worry about the dictator walking around because you didn't say wave the right way, bam, shooting you and killing you, or sending a missile to shoot you and your family, take out you and your family because you didn't wave out the right way. Or you waved to use this hand and use this hand, whatever, to wipe you behind. So then you have that to worry about and being in prison for saying something you shouldn't have said online or looking up something you shouldn't have looked up where, whatever, right? You have, you can't, you can only wear certain type of clothes. You can't wear what you want to wear even in your own house. So if you want that kind of government, that's the only way you're going to get the gun control that you're wishing to have. Because human beings are unpredictable. Human beings can be very selfish. Human beings can have a disagreement and want to find a way to kill the other person. That's why a lot of these nations are going to war right now, because of disagreements. Human beings can be emotional and want to find a way to take out the other person. As long as they have access to rocks, paper, scissors, what else? I guess paper, wood. Yeah, they will find a way to kill their fellow man. Okay. So, and for those who didn't get a wake up call back in, was it 2020 when COVID hit, where the government was telling you people that unless it's a murder, don't call us. All right, unless it's a murder, don't call us. So for you to feel like right now that the police are going to be your first responders or be right there in the moment in the mix while you're in the process of being probably taken out, what is wrong with you? And that's why a lot of people, especially black women, I think 40% of new gun owners in 2020 were black women, because especially single black, because oh yeah, they realized nobody's coming for you. Cities like New Orleans, other cities where people was calling the police and saying, hey, this is taking place, this is taking place, because there's a lot of loot, a lot of things going on. And the police told people over the phone, say, yo, do not call us unless it's a murder. Do y'all remember this? Please chat, I remember. Type in I remember if you remember, if you're watching. I remember. Put in I remember in the comment. I remember. If you remember in 2020, when the government, the police told people that we can't come to call us unless it's a murder. So if anybody has been in those kind of situations, anybody has been in a natural disaster, you can't depend on the government to give you power. You have generators. You can't depend on the government because they might even be able to get to you. It might be so many trees and limbs and stuff. They might not be able to get to you. So you have food stored up. Oh, we don't need that amount of food. You don't know how much food you're going to need. You might be without power for weeks. You might be out of power for maybe even months. But you at least want weeks to maybe even months of food if you can stock up because of dry food. So for you to be, oh, I don't need dry food. I don't need that many cans. I don't need all that water. I don't need my laser bore sights for my for my I don't need these type of products, you know what I'm saying, for cleaning out my stuff, my web. I don't need that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, that's like saying you don't need the stuff I just mentioned before. You don't need a tarp, you don't need a tent, you don't need uh a little inflatable bed. Certain things, it's so much stuff you need a flashlight, need a whole lot of stuff that ain't stay warm, portable heaters, fans, portable fans to sustain yourself because you can't fully depend on the government. All right. You can still desire and want their help. And then now, I then got rid of FEMA. So it's a lot of stuff, man, that's going and for you to be talking about you don't need a firearm, you don't need those type of weapons. You might find yourself into a situation where you say, dang, I wish I did have that. Because when I need the police to protect me against this group of people who done formed a little gang where they're going around probably doing the utmost to people, raping people who knows what. Can I say that on live? Uh, raping whatever the people, you know what I'm saying? You're going to need it. Because you never know what danger you're going to face until you in that situation. So you don't need to walk around, paranoid, but just be prepared. Because if you're prepared, you don't need to be paranoid. You can handle yourself if a situation needs to happen. But you use situation awareness. That's one of the main things. Knowing your surroundings, and knowing how to train with the weapon that you're going to use. Like I said, every situation doesn't call a firearm. Some situations you just need your hands. Some situations, all situations you need your mind. You need maybe some pepper spray, some mace, whatever, bear spray. Some situations you might need a taser. Some situations you might need a stick. Some situations you might need that stick that go pop, pop, pop. Okay, if they're the weapon, you might need a knife. Whatever the situation calls for, that this is the person's coming at me with a deadly weapon. They keep coming at me. I have no choice. I can't get away. I need to defend myself. Right? I need to use it. I have no other choice. It's not, as they say in after set protection, it's not can I, it's must I. All right. So you're in a situation where you have to, defend yourself. You have no other choice. I have to take this person out because I have to stop the threat by any means necessary because this is all I'm left with. This last option. So the firearm is the last option, the last resort. But to depend on the government to get a person off of you when they're on you in that second is crazy. They don't only want to need firearms. I said anybody who's seen, wars that taking place when the Israelis got invaded, I think it's in 2022, they got invaded by I think Hamas, whatever. They was coming to people's houses. They was coming out, parachuting down, coming to people's neighborhoods. And the people there, the Israelis, there were shooting back. And they was happy they had firearms, those who had firearms, because they was able not to be kidnapped and seeing their wives and daughters and people being kidnapped. It were people who were kidnapped, but those people in those particular cities were not kidnapped and not taken hostage and not under under the gun of your in that moment in time your oppressor, your invaders. So they was able to fight back. And you know what their government did? Don't they? You know, they said, "Yo, we need to get more guns." They only gave them, I think, maybe like 2 guns to a family, and like they can only get maybe no more like 50 rounds or something like that. And I'm like, and like I said, where was the army? They have army, they have an army, but the army was not there when these people was able to. It's just like I said, they went past their army and they was able to go on places where there was not a lot of military presence. So places where there's not a lot of military presence because the military is over in this way fighting them. They don't know that they're coming from that way. And they say, okay, well, we could take their people hostage. While they're fighting our people over here, we can go get their people and say, hey, fall back. We got your people. So people never think about that. Say, well, and the military can't get to you because they're too busy over there. And like I said, it's only so many people that's going to be in the military. But that's why the Second Amendment it's also for personal defense and also for defending the country if just in case there was an invasion. If Britain, whoever, somebody want to get their get back and say, "Yo, we want to put them back under our rule," or we want to just take that country over. And that's why I think it was like one of the ministers of Japan, one of the leaders of Japan at one point. I think it was like in the '90s. He had said uh, they would never invade America because behind every blade of grass is an American with a firearm or with a gun, right? So that show it's a deterrent too. Most people want an easy fight. So nobody who's a boxer says, you know what, I want to. If you have to fight, Mike Tyson said, yo, I only want to have one hand. I only want to see out of one eye. So yeah, there's people who bully people, who make people's lives live in hell by bullying them. So you want to make it harder for you and everybody else to beat the bully, to take karate. So there's people who take martial arts to bully people. There's people who take martial arts to bully the bully, okay, and get active fully. And at one point, martial arts was banned as well in China. They banned kung fu because dictators don't want people to have a fighting chance. Whatever gives people a pretty good fighting chance of that day, that time period, they don't want. They don't even want it. So even martial arts, you can't practice kung fu. And that's usually with slaves. Slaves can't practice martial arts. Slaves can't practice weaponry, having guns. Slaves. So by being anti-gun, you make yourself pro-slavery. Oh, I for the what's the guy with the afro? He was up in I think Congress. I think he's in Congress. He was, and I understand. Rest in peace to his brother who died. Uh, violently, but it wasn't. Just violence is violence. Whether it's knife violence, gun violence, violence is violence. Um, and even when you defend yourself with a firearm, that gets counted as gun violence too. But even when it's self defense. But for him to be promoting uh, or advocating for gun control in 2024, 2025, and supposed to be a young radical, I guess pro black or pro what a young brother, the Black Panther Party would have gun control and strict gun control. Most people of the 60s and 70s and all that who were really putting in that work, man, was against gun control. Deacons for Defense were not for gun control because gun control was put in place to disarm so-called black people. The first element of gun control in this country, the black codes, look it up, the black codes was to disarm black people. So how can you be a pro-black? I'm for the LG, I'm for the downtrodden, but you're pro gun control. So if common people see a lot of times people don't know what they be supporting. Just like you had the woman here in Florida. I'll try to remember her name. God dang. But anyway, she's very liberal, progressive, and she smoked herb, pro Mary Jane, which I'm for that. Yeah, I feel like it should be legal. But anyway, she went to go buy a firearm because like I said, a lot of stuff was going down in the country. And her and her friends couldn't. She found out when she went to go try to buy a firearm that not only she had to fill out a form, but because because it's what they voted for. But also at 4473, you can't be, you can't smoke, you can't have marijuana. Anything that's considered fairly illicit or whatever, you can't have that. You can't use that. You can't use it. So even though they had medical marijuana cards, she was shocked that they couldn't buy. But see, this is the stuff I'm talking about. Like they don't know what they're doing. You're disarming yourself. You didn't even realize, like I said, more people should be more educated on firearm safety. Because people like, well, and then they went, oh, we should make the legal age 21, 24. That's another argument too. When an 18 to 17-year-old can enter the military, 17-year-old can enter the military with their parents' permission. They can join the military, learn how to shoot people, kill people, get blowed up, watch their friends die. Okay, go to a foreign country, blow people up, get blowed up, get loaded as a bomb. Oh, so they're adult, mature enough for that type of action. But to have a gun and firearm to protect themselves and their family, that's too much. Their brain can't deal with that. They can deal with PTSD from war at 18, 19, but they can't own a firearm. They can't. That's too much responsibility. So they can pay rent, buy a car, do all this stuff. So have sex, create a child, another human being to the world. Be responsible for 18. Now you're responsible for a lot of stuff at 18. I mean, you can't drink till you're 21, which that's dumb. But you get tried as an adult because you're an adult. You go to the big people's prison. When you're 18, they don't try you as a juvenile. They try you as an adult, right? It's a no-brainer. You're 18, you're an adult. They're gonna try you as an adult, but you're not adult enough to handle a firearm. You're adult enough to be tried as an adult at 18. When you get locked up, they take you to the big man's prison, the big girl's prison. You go to war, but you can't own. So anyway, so stuff like that. These weak arguments. So yeah, man. But that's the Second Amendment is just that. Stop. People figure like if I move somewhere that's pro LGBT, that my life is going to be better. No, because you're going to have people there that's going to take advantage of that because they're going to like, oh wow, they give up their firearms. They did. They don't have a week. Oh, okay. You know what I'm saying? They ain't got what we got. Oh man, we gonna have a field day. And by the time the police get there, we gonna be for real. And some of y'all might be so scared to even tell the police what you saw. Cause you like, oh man, you see what they had. you might be too afraid even to call the police. They have you so shook because now you done gave up your yeah, because when the police gone, you on your own. When you tell them people, oh yeah, you tell the police, when you tell you tell them people to the police, when they leave, they gonna be criminal again. Just like was it Friday? Like Debo, he be like, shut up. I be quiet. But when he leave, I be talking again. That's how our criminals is. Well, okay, yeah, they might chill out. But when the police leave, They gonna be extorting you again. Okay, they gonna be having you at gunpoint with 30 round, mag with the Glock with the switch on it when the police gone. Oh, what do you tell them? Okay, so yeah, you're gonna be putting yourself under that. Okay, but if they know that you got what they got, or probably even better, and you got every right to deal with them accordingly, then they'll act right when you there and when the police get there. They know how to act. Get what I'm saying? They know how to act. If they don't, well, you ain't deal with that issue anymore. So yeah, that's like I said, it boggles my mind, and I want people to stop feeling like to stop disarming yourself mentally, because the first way to disarm you, they got to disarm you mentally. Oh, I don't have a right to have that. That's only for the military. And then the police not really trained like that. They only get trained like every 2 years, something like that. They had to go. They re I guess you call it like re-exam. They love they don't really. That's why they shoot so much, because they don't really. You got certain officers that really train that well, that keep it up. But from what I hear, they don't really and what you see. So yeah, come on, like the police are not marshmen. Okay, they're not. I be like, oh, the police is that, and then too, they're not your personal bodyguards, and that's even in law. Look it up. They're not your personal bodyguards. So, like I said, you got a fighting chance living in a state where you have a fighting chance. So if they come and try to take your life, okay, boom. That's what the Deacon Defense and all the rest of them here in the South, they was like, yo, hey, arm up. When they go click, click, we go click, click. And they gonna try to take it away from us, because why? We can play that game. You ain't just gonna take me that dang easy. Yeah, yeah. You're not gonna take me that easy. So it was armed black men that helped us get a lot of these rights down here in the South. One because of just no law. Because we see how that right now. They put somebody in the office and just a stroke of a pen. Oh man, they taking this, they taking that. But one thing is gonna be hard to take away. Hey man, I don't say it every So if you can't, if what I'm saying right here is not resonating to you, keep it moving. Like I say, for those who are on the straight on the fence, like yeah, okay, leave your comment. But those who got your mind made up, you still want gun control, you still want tougher, strict with gun laws and stuff, and somehow you feel like that's going to protect you, yourself, your family, and the LGBT and marginalized groups of people in society. If you believe that after 48 minutes, an hour or so of this live, and there's so many other people dropping the science, dropping the knowledge that I'm dropping even deep on this, if you still feel like that, shame on you. Shame on you in 2025. With all the evidence worldwide now that shows otherwise, that your defense and your safety and your protection is on you. It's up to you. Okay. And like I say, neighbors that you have are more, if you have any real neighbors and real good people neighbors, they are more uh, equipped, or more how can I say, enthused about protecting you. Okay, and more easily available than the police. I say, because most of the time when the police, man, and like I said, and yeah, and call them after you have your self defense situation. Call them, let them know, hey, I had to defend myself. But because you need, especially you have to do that. But yeah, they're usually not, they're not usually patrolling around like that when it happens, because they have other stuff they have to do. So it'll be good if we live in a world where every day you walk outside, there's a police officer just willing to help, but that's not the case. Or just ready. Hey, when I walk outside, there's two officers. Hey, but no, man. So I don't know where I don't know no country or no city where that's the case. So yeah, man. So just keep that in mind. Do your research. Learn more. about LGBT, the Bible, and what God has to say about LGBT and science, and about protecting yourself, man. You know, learn some martial arts. Now, I'm not telling you nothing I haven't. I already did. Learn martial arts, man. Take a class, martial arts, uh, firearms, knives, etc., etc., etc. The laws concerning that. Check your local listings, in your state. Things like that, man. Hey, it's up to you. It's up to you. Okay, but please don't continue to say, "Hey, I'm pro LGBT," but I'm anti-gun. I'm anti-Second Amendment because you know those politicians are not going to be there when the racist, bigot, homophobe shows up and decides to snipe somebody like they did that brother in Minnesota who was just being a man married, I think married to a white woman, and a racist white guy shot him down doing his yard. And then the police there took forever, like I said, very liberal, city and state. But anyway, like I said, so many examples to show that hey, their law don't stop the racist, doesn't stop uh, the homophobes and the transphobes. Their law does not stop them. There's many examples of that. You still have to fight. You have to fight for your right. You have to fight to stay alive. Okay? All right. So I just want to say that, put it out there for those who wondering, don't know. If you don't know my youth, you don't know, right? You know already. So ago. And yeah, that's basically what I have to say, man. Hey, keep your, protect yourself at all times. James B. I'm out. Shalom. Y'all be good. All right.